So you guys studied about how we apply Newton's second law in problems, correct? And you also learned about impulse. So now, see, let's take an example. Okay, see, you have a spring. Okay, see the picture. Alright, so you have a spring, and then the spring moves. Okay, now you are coiling the spring. To coil the spring, you are exerting some sort of force. Correct? Now the spring, it pushes you with the same force, correct? Right? So this here, whatever force you are applying, or whatever force, what we can say is there is an action, there is a reaction, correct? Okay, so look at this. Okay, so sorry, this actually in cartoon the laws of physics doesn't work. Okay, so in actuality, what happens is if you coil the spring, okay, and once you release it, so it will push you forward with the same force, right? Same force it pushes you. Now, so what we can conclude from this example is for every action there is a reaction and there is equal reaction. And also it's in opposite direction, correct? So let's take one more example. Okay, so a recoiling of a gun. See, this example, I think you guys have already learnt about this. So what happens? You have a gun. Okay, so you fire the bullet moves in one direction. So the recoiling of gun happens, that moves in the opposite direction. Okay, that moves in the opposite direction. So you have an action reaction pair. Okay, action reaction pair. So now let's take one more example. See, you are standing on earth. Earth pulls you because of gravity. Now, do you pull earth also? Like, because I am standing here, right? If there is action, there should be reaction. So if earth is pulling you down with its gravity, are you pulling earth up again, towards you? Think about this. Is it possible? Because a reaction should have a reaction, right? This is what we saw from the previous two examples. Is this possible? Think about this. In the next video, you will see whether it's possible or not. See, earth doesn't come up, right? Obviously. So you go down, earth never comes up. But according to this, how do you explain that? Okay, in the next video you will see about that. Now coming to this few examples what we did. See, what we studied was an action and reaction always comes in pairs, correct? Now this is Newton's third law of motion. So Newton's third law of motion, what it states is for every action there is equal and opposite reaction. Okay, so this is Newton's third law of motion. Understood, right? So in the previous examples, whatever you saw, like the coiling of a spring, or it can be recoiling of a gun, all these things are based on Newton's third law. One more example is the rocket. See, rocket, it moves to the sky, correct? Obviously, it goes to the orbit of the Earth. Now, how does it go? If you guys have seen a rocket launch, see there is a rocket launch picture. See what happens? It releases all the energy at once. We call that as a thrust. Okay, so it has the thrust. So the rocket moves in the opposite direction. How does it move? It pushes Earth down. So technically it's like that. Like how you jump. See, if you are jumping, what happens? You push the Earth and then you jump, correct? Equal and opposite reaction. Same principle is with rocket also. Okay, so rocket pushes the Earth and it goes forward. Alright, so like this, every action has equal and opposite reaction. Alright, so this is Newton's third law of motion. So what we say is, if you have, like mathematically, if you have a force FAB, then we have FBA which is acting in the opposite direction. So what we say is FAB is equal to minus FBA. Okay, so minus FBA. So in this case, your force acting on A to B is equal and opposite of force acting on B to A. Understood, right? So this is what we call as Newton's third law of motion. Now, you can see a lot of examples on Newton's third law of motion. Okay, a lot of examples. You walking on the floor is actually Newton's third law of motion. We can explain it because you press the earth and you move forward, correct? New equal and opposite reaction. So there are other forces also acting here, not just Newton's third law. Well, you'll learn about that later in the later on videos. Understand? So clear with what is Newton's third law of motion? Okay, in the coming videos you'll see how we use Newton's third law of motion, where all do we use Newton's third law of motion and different concepts of it. Alright?